Chapter 2. Telma's Bar. The Gerudo. A Shadow Mage. He wasn't sure if it was the rolling thunder or the thudding pain that had woken him up. Link shifted around, and realized that he was lying on a poorly made bed, in a decidedly shabby room. Golden light filtered through the floorboards, and he could make out the sound of voices down below. He was in a room above the tavern, he realized, and when he stood to get up, he realized that his arm was bound in a makeshift sling. The stairs creaked when he descended into the well-lit pub, sparsely populated with clientele either hunched over their drinks or sleeping quietly at tables. Link spotted Vincent propped between two chairs snoring quietly.
"Oh, what are you doing? Go back to sleep. Now."
A heavy-set woman stormed out from behind the bar, waving her arms at Link.
"That arm is broken. You can't be moving around with." "Let him do what he wants, Telma,"
said a commanding voice. Link recognized it as coming from the giant man who had saved him earlier, who was reclining in a chair with his feet on a table and sipping something steaming out of a chipped mug.
"Fine,"
the bartender relinquished after a while.
"But drink this,"
she added, pouring Link a mug of tea and adding a generous helping of whiskey.
"For the pain,"
she added, pushing the mug into his hands. Link took a drink and grimaced.
"Doesn't mix too well, does it?"
The giant man laughed at him.
"That's Telma's cure for everything. Tea and whiskey."
He raised his own mug before taking another drink. Link sat down at the same table and saw that the imp girl was seated there as well. Instead of a mug of Telma's cure-all, however, she was working her way through a pint of beer, a pile of mashed potatoes, and a large steak. He never would have guessed that someone so small could go through so much food.
"Couldn't sleep?"
the big man remarked.
"No,"
Link answered, trying not to jostle his broken arm.
"What about you two?"
"Keeping watch," he said, taking another sip. Link noticed that he was staring at the boarded-up windows. The imp cursed.
"Night time is me time,"
she moaned.
"Not you time. Me time. And you are ruining it." I'm sorry,"
Link offered.
"Don't mind Midna,"
the other man told him.
"You'll get used to her incessant chirping soon enough." "I dream about killing you,"
Midna chirped incessantly.
"My name is Ganondorf,"
he said, ignoring her.
"It's unfortunate that we couldn't meet under better circumstances."
"Link," he introduced himself, reaching out with his right arm to shake hands. When his hand grasped Ganondorf's right, he felt a sharp pain in his left.
"Ow! Something wrong?"
Ganondorf asked.
"Sorry. Just my arm, I think."
"Soft," Midna said, none too subtly.
"You mustn't forget,"
Ganondorf told her,
"that his wound was inflicted protecting you from harm. You should be more appreciative." "You should quit going out of your way to get us killed,"
Midna retorted between mouthfuls of food.
"Seriously, what were you thinking? Risking our lives going out at night for some kid?" "What was that thing, anyways?"
Link asked.
"That monster. It looked like it was made out of shadows."
Midna stopped eating.
"What? You don't know?" "I've never been here before." "Never been where?" "Telma's place." "Here."
He waved his good arm.
"This city."
The one eye that was not hidden by Midna's helm widened even further.
"You've never been to Hyrule before?" "I had never even heard of it."
She gaped.
"My whole life I've lived here. I've never even been outside the city. When I was young I didn't even know there was an outside the city. Where did you come from?"
Link opened his mouth to answer, but then found that he didn't really know how to respond. He furrowed his brow, trying to think.
"That's not important,"
Ganondorf answered for him, swiftly changing the subject.
"That thing that attacked you, Link, is the reason that nobody in Hyrule goes outside at night." "But what is it, exactly?"
Midna shrugged.
"Darkness. Who knows?" It's been here as long as anybody can remember, and nobody's been able to kill it.
Here she shot Ganondorf a peculiar look.
And there aren't a lot of things that our boss can't kill. Boss?
Link asked.
What are you, like a gang? Link, you've just arrived in this city,
Ganondorf explained, calculating his words with purpose.
You don't know what life is like here. Midna and Vincent and I, we've lived our whole life here, in the slums, lived the lives that the countless masses are forced to lead at the expense of the nobility. Are the people here repressed?
Now Midna's eyes narrowed, too.
They live far above us, secure in their towers. They never have to worry about living through the night, or scraping up enough food to make it through the day. Every single citizen of Hyrule is taxed by a government that does nothing in return.
Ganondorf leaned forward over the table, all semblance of warmth gone. There was a dispassionate coldness in his voice, one that made Link realize that perhaps the man really was as dangerous as Midna said.
Ours is a group that reclaims what belongs to the people. The bourgeoisie take advantage of the lower classes incessantly. They live a life of privilege and luxury while we live and die in poverty. It's been too long, and nobody has done anything about it until now, until us.
Midna laughed, and Link realized it was the first time since meeting her that he had ever heard her laugh. He was very aware that the two people seated at the table with him were not those he wanted to cross.
Eeeehee. Gerudo,
she said softly. The dark man echoed her laugh, but it was softer, almost gentle.
Gerudo. They were a race of people who farmed the plains surrounding the city of Hyrule. There was a drought, long, debilitating. The Gerudo people and their king came to the city, asked to be allowed inside, asked for aid from the princess high in her cold tower.
At the mention of the princess, Midna's hands clenched, and the table shook slightly with an unseen energy.
But she ignored their pleas. The drought did not end. The Gerudo starved to death out on the plains, and one more time their king came into the city. Humble, alone. He bowed down before the princess, and asked once more for aid. And do you know what she did?
Ganondorf had spoken quietly throughout, but his eyes glared brightly from beneath the hood of his cloak, and the drink in his hands shook as he raised it to his lips. Link was almost afraid to ask him.
What did she do? She demanded money,
Ganondorf said calmly.
She demanded payment from the Gerudo king. She refused to help 100,000 dying people unless each one paid her for her aid. She wanted money.
He roared.
And so we take their name, and fight on in their memory,
Midna finished for him.
And in the memory of the other peoples who have fallen after them. The Minish. The Sheikah. The Twilight,
said Ganondorf solemnly.
The Twilight,
Midna repeated, and Link almost didn't hear her, so quiet was her voice.
But how long ago did all this happen?
He asked.
I understand that you can't forget the past. But this princess? She must be long dead. You would think so,
Ganondorf laughed again, humorlessly.
The Gerudo people died out more centuries ago. But the same princess still lives and breathes high above this city, at this very moment. But that's impossible,
Link said.
One would think,
Midna drawled.
But evidence remains to the contrary. I am one of the last of the Twilight people, and the records of our race refer to the same princess. As do those of the Minish.
A sense of dread pervaded the room. Even Telma at the bar seemed tense.
How old is she? As old as the city of Hyrule itself,
said Ganondorf.
She is the cause of the corruption, the ignorance, and the darkness that overwhelms this city. As long as she rules, the people of the lower city can never breathe free, never hope to die anything other than a pauper. As the Gerudo, we will put an end to the suffering. You mean?
Ganondorf spoke with a smile on his face.
I am going to kill the Princess Zelda. And I would very much appreciate it if you joined me. Thank you very much for the food and shelter, Telma. Oh, I can't possibly take this. You know that you three are always welcome to whatever you like here.
Telma pushed Ganondorf's money back across the bar to him. Link noticed that, in addition to paying for the food, drinks, and privilege of staying the night, he had also left her a very generous tip. Ganondorf pushed the money right back.
I insist. What are we liberating these funds for, if not to be given back to the people who deserve them?
Just take it, Vincent smiled wearily, as if he had been through this same routine many times before.
We don't need to be treated any differently.
Midna floated over to Link and leaned into his ear.
This happens every time. Nobody ever wants to charge us for anything, and Ganondorf never lets us accept anything for free. This should take about 15 minutes.
True to Midna's prediction, it was at least 15 minutes later when they left Talmasbar and stepped out into the morning light. The rain from the night before had left the air chill and the streets damp, but already the streets were busy with people going about their business.
First things first,
Ganondorf said.
You are welcome to join the Gerudo if you like. What?
Midna burst out.
Hey, we just met this guy like 10 hours ago. What's the deal? He is still alive,
Vincent observed.
After meeting that shadow in the night, this is a significant accomplishment. Yeah, he's alive because we saved his ass,
she retorted.
Midna,
said Ganondorf.
I believe that Link can help us. And so I am offering him a chance to join us. It is up to him to choose. But...
Midna glared at Link with clear distrust on her face.
I trust Ganondorf's judgment,
Vincent spoke as if this settled the matter.
And I know that you do, too. Fine.
She crossed her tiny arms.
You don't have to decide right now, Link.
He noticed that Ganondorf was leading them down, deeper into the city.
But I would like you to see a few things before you do make your decision.
As they descended further, Link saw that the pools left by the rain had not dried in several places. In many spots, runoff from the upper levels was still pouring down and adding to the dampness. Tiny rivulets flowed downwards and joined others, becoming veritable streams running through the city.
Whatever you do,
Midna smirked,
don't drink the water.
Eventually they came to what could only be described as an amalgam. It was the cobbled-together remains of several shattered buildings. Link saw walls made out of brick, wood, stone, marble, and numerous other materials. The roof was a patchwork of thousands of different tiles of all sizes, and the construction did not seem to be put together according to any coherent design. It was gigantic, and also almost unbelievable to look at. He expected it to fall apart at any moment.
Welcome to the home of the Gerudo,
Ganondorf said.
We call it the Spirit Temple. The Spirit Temple?
Link asked incredulously. He could not imagine anything that looked less like a place of worship.
The upper levels of Hyrule City are rife with temples,
Vincent said mournfully.
They are all marble and gold monoliths, dedicated not to the fulfillment of the spirit, but of the wallet. The penniless are denied entry, and only the rich can afford religion. The Spirit Temple is the only temple in the entire city where all are welcome,
Ganondorf continued for him.
We are the only temple where the spirit takes precedence over profit.
Link thought that this was very inspirational, at least until Midna chimed in with,
I always thought that it was because spirit is the only thing that holds this dump together.
She floated up out of the reach of Vincent, who tried to hit her. Ganondorf was unperturbed.
Come on inside. We can heal that broken arm for you.
The inside of the Spirit Temple was even more haphazardly put together than the rest of it. Mismatched tables, chairs, shelves, cabinets, and couches formed a maze of furniture that stretched through rooms of varying shapes, sizes, and stability. Some of the rooms were divided by walls that appeared to be made of broken siege fortifications, while other walls were nothing more than thick curtains with holes in them. Strewn about in an equally disorganized fashion was easily the most impressive collection of weaponry that Link had ever seen. One glass cabinet was filled entirely with brand new, gleaming swords, another with an assortment of rusty maces and axes. Staves, spears, pikes, halberds, polearms of all sorts were leaned against a stone wall, and he saw bags filled with explosives, quivers filled with arrows, and boxes filled with pointy rocks. There were 3 swords mounted on a far wall that he was sure nobody but Ganondorf could have possibly wielded, a gigantic cleaver that was both as wide and as tall as Link, an elegant curved blade that was ridiculously thin and ridiculously long, and a long sword that, amazingly, appeared to be made out of light. It wasn't only weapons that filled the Spirit Temple. There were suits of armor, bottles of drinks and potions and strange creatures, disguises of all sorts, bandages and other first aid supplies, countless shelves filled with books, and great stores of food. A cow mooed from somewhere in back.
There's an injury,
Ganondorf yelled as soon as he stepped inside.
Can you give us a hand?
For a moment, Link thought that nothing was happening. Then he spotted a flickering ball of light zooming towards him. The light soon resolved itself into a tiny, even tinier than Midna, completely nude woman with a set of wings sprouting out of her back. Her entire body was aglow with a white light.
Hello. Broken arm? It looks pretty serious, but it's been set well enough that I think I can take care of it.
The fairy zipped back and forth, examining his broken arm from every angle.
Link,
said Midna sullenly,
Navi, Link. The whole healing deal is cool for like 5 minutes, and then you realize that maybe you would prefer the injury to having to deal with, ow.
Midna had not levitated out of Visen's reach this time around.
Injury,
he said quickly.
Imma set you on fire so hard.
Link's attention was distracted from the squabble by a sharp stinging pain up his whole arm, then an intense heat, and then the complete absence of the dull pain that had been present ever since his arm had been broken.
There we go. All done. That was fast,
Midna commented.
Oddly fast,
agreed Visen.
Oh,
said Navi happily, and just a tad too loudly.
Well, it's much easier to heal someone if they've got some magic in them already. And there was plenty to work with here. I don't think I've ever seen this much, except maybe for you, Ganondorf. Is that so?
Ganondorf said calmly. Midna's eyes were darting forth between him and Link suspiciously.
Well now,
Visen smiled gently, interrupting.
I must now take my leave of you. Ladies. Gentlemen. I have business to attend to as well,
Ganondorf said.
Midna, you know what to do. What?
She yelled, outraged.
Why me?
Ganondorf scowled.
Visen has a day job, and as I'm sure you're aware, it is a vitally important one. And I have better things to do with my time. But, it's daytime. I hate daytime. Well, you can't very well go out at night now, can you?
Link thought it was very likely that Ganondorf and Visen were enjoying this.
Have fun.
Visen stepped outside and was gone in an instant. Ganondorf disappeared to somewhere deeper inside the tangle that was the Spirit Temple, leaving Link alone with Midna and Navi.
So what's going on?
Navi asked brightly. Midna swore viciously.
You. Follow me.
She led them to a long, low wooden table. Link picked his way carefully across the floor, trying not to rip over anything, and Navi bobbed along beside him. Midna snapped her fingers, and Link's pack appeared out of thin air, hovering above the table. He was wondering where it had got to. She snapped her fingers again and the pack turned upside down, emptying all its contents onto the table.
Hey,
he began.
You have got a lot of garbage,
Midna said. She picked up the shining ocarina.
What the hell is this? It's an ocarina. And it's mine. Is it worth money? What? Hey, leave that alone. What are you doing?
Her bright yellow eye flocked up at him.
We are liquidating your assets. But I need.
He stopped as Midna tossed the silver conductor's baton and the empty hourglass into one of the two piles she had formed.
These look expensive. So they go in the sell pile. Over here is the useless pile.
The useless pile included an extra torn tunic, several broken arrows, the strange wooden mask he had been given the night before, and the black rock with orange symbols on it. Midna looked oddly at the rock for several minutes before shrugging and tossing it aside.
You can't just sell all my stuff.
He protested. She glared at him again.
If we had wanted, we could have just let that monster kill you and taken all this for ourselves. You should be thankful that we saved your life, and more than willing to offer us a small reward. Do you do this to everybody you rescue?
He asked petulantly.
Yep. They really do,
Navi said cheerfully, and continued in even higher spirits.
Nobody seems to like it.
True to form, the fairy's incessant cheer was beginning to wear on him already.
We're letting you keep the sword. Be grateful.
Midna continued rummaging through all his worldly possessions, eventually adding the pack itself to the sell pile. Ganondorf emerged from the depths of the spirit temple and navigated his way over to them. Link saw that he had shed his tattered traveling cloak and battle-scarred armor. He was now garbed in an ornate set of black metal gilded with gold.
Dressy,
said Midna.
Off to work, then. Garu don't never rest,
Ganondorf said solemnly.
They need to be reminded we're out there. Waiting for them. They need to be afraid of something. Can you not sell all my things?
Link asked. He leaned over to examine the piles that Midna had made.
Keep all his things, Midna. We need the money,
she commented.
Maybe if you weren't so stubborn about accepting other people's charity. I have no qualms about accepting charity from those who can afford to give it,
Ganondorf replied smoothly.
But I don't want the starving pushing their share of bread on us. Sell some of the spare short swords we take from the guards, or those spears we got last week.
She shrugged, but said nothing.
Meet back here before dinner,
he said, and then he was gone.
Bye.
Navi waved.
All right, come on, let's go, kid.
Midna floated over to a pile of weaponry and started sorting through them. Every so often she chose one and snapped her fingers, making the weapon seem to melt into nothingness in her hands.
Where do those go?
Link asked. Midna smiled and melted too. For a second the room was quiet save for the buzzing of Navi's wings, and then Midna reappeared, perfectly silent, right behind him.
The shadows,
she whispered in his ear with a ridiculous flair and, despite himself, he jumped a bit.
You mean like that monster that attacked us? Oh, that thing.
Midna laughed.
Yes. Exactly like that. Now come on, we have stuff to do. Let's go.
Link navigated his way through the tangle of the spirit temple until he came to the door. Navi fluttered with him.
Nice meeting you,
she was saying.
I had loads of fun healing you. I hope you get hurt again sometime so I can do it again.
Link was unnerved.
Okay. Sure. He'll do his best,
Midna said, patting him on the back.
That is the most annoying fairy in the city,
she said later, as soon as they had stepped outside.
And there are a lot of fairies here. And they are all annoying.
Link hadn't really been too bothered by Navi, but he could see how she might get on one's nerves.
She just needs to calm down, you know.
Midna was floating backwards facing him, guiding him through the streets without even looking.
Way too enthusiastic about everything. We had to bring her along on a mission one time. Dear gods. What happened?
Link asked. Midna cleared her throat and then said, in an eerily accurate imitation of the fairy's voice,
Hey. Are we sneaking up on those guys? Look out. They spotted us somehow. Hey. What are you doing? Should I heal this guy you just stabbed? Hey. Should I heal him? Listen. I'm going to heal him. Watch out. I healed him but I think he's going to try and stab you back. Yep. He stabbed you back.
Link knew when he was being led on.
That did not really happen.
Midna smiled.
She's not allowed to come with us anymore, I'll tell you that.
Link ascended 2 sets of stone stairs and into the brightening sunlight. Midna raised a hand to shield her eyes and swore.
Erg. Son. Hang on a second, I'm going to do a secret thing.
As he watched, Midna melted into shadow again, his shadow. Taking another step, he found that his shadow seemed to have gained a physical weight. It felt like there was a loose cloth tied to his feet and he was dragging it along with every step.
It's not like you're gonna trip,
she said. The voice seemed to come from just next to his ear.
Come on, let's go. I'll guide you from here. I don't do sunlight too good. So you can hide in shadows,
Link said suspiciously. He couldn't help thinking about the monster that had tried to kill him the night before.
Oh, don't start up with that stupid.
She began.
Look, I know what you're thinking. This is shadow magic, something that is inherent to the Twilight people. Because that monster in the night can use shadow magic, people automatically assume we're associated. Not that there's many of us left,
she said bitterly.
I'm sorry,
Link apologized automatically.
No big deal. You just shamed my whole culture and dead race.
It was tough to tell whether she was joking or not.
But it's not like shadow magic automatically makes you a Twilight. Anybody can do it. I could teach you, if I felt like it. Do you? No. You probably wouldn't want it anyways, you get some odd looks. It's a branch of magic that's really gotten a bad rap, right up there with necromancy and transformation. It's kind of funny, because everybody in the lower half of the city adores Ganondorf, and he's an expert and a half in all three of those disciplines. Oh, go left here.
Link turned where she told him, and into a crowded street packed with taverns, restaurants, and brothels. An impressively endowed prostitute with long blue hair was soliciting customers and, as Link watched, her shadow flickered up her leg. The woman gasped sharply and clutched her behind, looking about furiously for whoever had pinched her.
Love doing that,
Midna giggled in his ear.
Acting like that, it's no wonder you shadow mages aren't too popular. Please, she sighed, that was completely harmless. Anyways, just go to the end of this street and then we're there.
Halfway through the sentence, Link noticed that Midna was no longer a part of his shadow, but was instead floating through the air beside him. Link had to admit, he understood her sympathy for the darkness. In the dark, she had glowed with an unearthly light, blending in with the darkness. Her bright eye and red hair had been as bright as the fire she conjured. In the light, her grey skin seemed plain against the shadowy garment that hugged her childlike figure. Her impish scowl seemed to revert to infantile petulance, and the helmet that had once been intimidating now just looked like a stupid hat. He laughed.
What? Nothing.
Link kept walking. She zoomed about so she was floating in front of him, facing him.
What? What are you laughing about? You look very cute,
he said matter-of-factly. Midna reacted exactly how he thought she would.
Hey jackass, I could cut your throat while you were sleeping and you would never even know. I could light your boots on fire and sit and watch as it worked all the way up to your stupid hat. I've killed more people than you've ever met. Am I cute now?
Link tried to keep his face straight, but couldn't quite manage it.
What are you still smiling about? Your face goes black when you blush. Not red. You practice antagonizing people.
Link already knew she would be trying to hit him, and ducked. He bolted through the crowd of people, weaving skillfully and barely jostling anybody. Within seconds, Midna's swears were lost in the noise behind him. He looked back, and couldn't see her anywhere. When he looked in front of him again, he took 3 more steps before his shadow leapt up and wrapped around his legs. Link careened wildly, arms coming out in front of him to break his fall. The fall never came, however, as his shadow halted his forward fall and spun him around and forward again. His outstretched hands came to rest squarely on a Zora woman's breasts.
Oh,
he said. Midna almost fell out of the air laughing when she reappeared, when the Zora was long gone and Link was rubbing his cheek dolefully.
That's what you get,
she said.
Noted,
Link responded.
Oh.
Midna looked up.
We're here.
The first thing Link realized was that the river that circled the city of Hyrule must have bisected it as well, for he had entered an enormous central plaza that was dominated by a deep blue canal. Boats of all sizes and quality drifted lazily up and down the river, and fishing lines stretched from the banks and bridges into the water. The plaza itself was a gigantic circle neatly divided in 2 by the river. Numerous high white stone bridges spanned the gap between the 2 halves. The place was a sea of activity. Countless masses buzzed about, drifting back and forth between an incredible number of stalls and merchants. The noise was incredible. Shouted advertisements, constant haggling, conversation, laughter, names. And above it all, the clink of innumerable amounts of money. Perhaps the most striking aspect of the sprawling bazaar was that, for the first time since Link had entered the city, he had a clear view of the sky. Towering buildings formed a wall all around them, but directly above he could see a warm blue sky with a few lazy clouds drifting across it.
Ugh! It's too bright,
Midna complained.
This is amazing,
Link marveled.
I've never seen anything like it. Where are we?
She regained herself.
Welcome,
Midna said in what Link supposed appropriated a theatrical tone,
to the market district.
Chapter end.